Hey everybody, and welcome to the second rendition of Face Off. I'm your faceless moderator, Rory, owner of Threadhead Media, and we are here with our two hosts, Ray and Kristen, who are going to debate each other on the hottest topics surrounding the sport of MMA right now. Ray, if you want to introduce yourself and tell them about your background a little bit.
Absolutely. So this is my second episode with you guys. I love doing this thing. You can catch all my stuff on Twitter at Darce_smokes. I have my own podcast. It's called Ray's Omoplata Soup. It's a bunch of shenanigans. Honestly, you shouldn't listen to it, but if you do, go ahead. Off to you, Miss King.
Yeah, so I'm Kristen. I write for My MMA News. We have a debate column with my really good friend Anthony Walker. It's called King and Slim, where we debate a bunch of topics. And I'm essentially just your regular old MMA journalist. You can follow me on Twitter at Kristen King MMA. You can find all my work there.
I don't. If, of course, everyone knows by now, but one of the special things about this show is that it features three black people in the space of mixed martial arts, which is pretty rare in this sport. Also, shout out to Ant Walker for being, another one of us. With that being said, I think the first thing that we need to discuss right now is the Black Lives Matter movement that's happening. Tell me a little bit about your guys' experience with the movement so far, and what it's like being black in the space of mixed martial arts. What do you notice online? How do you feel with your colleagues? How do you feel about black fighters? Just give me the overall scope of blackness, your blackness in mixed martial arts right now. Take the floor, Ray.
Yeah, so a little bit about me. I kind of have always been criticized by the way that I talk. I feel like I speak well in the black community. That's typically frowned upon. Even you guys may have experienced a little bit of backlash off that. People be saying you're talking white. You know what I'm saying? So, but in the MMA world, as far as being someone who's trying to be like an analyst or journalist or whatever the hell this thing is, I feel like sometimes you don't get respected as much, and you have to try a little bit harder. And that's something that me as a person, I usually try to ignore. I usually look at the positive in most situations. Um, and my demeanor won't really allow me to show that I may be oppressed, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't oppressed. So that's kind of my whole thing on it. And same with the fighters. A lot of people gave Tyron Woodley a lot of shit for playing the black card, a lot of the times. And sure, he may have overplayed it maybe at the wrong times, but a lot of the stuff he was saying was legit. He, was kind of overshadowed a lot of the time when Robbie Lawler had the title and he was begging for a title shot. He, if you ask me, had the resume. So, but that's just one example. I mean, we can probably go down the list of black fighters that have been kind of, just like I said, oppressed.
How about you, Miss King? What's your overall scope of how about from a journalist perspective? How do you feel in this space being not only black but a black female covering mixed martial arts?
Yeah, I was talking to Anthony Walker about it like yesterday or 2 days ago, and I was debating my space or my place in this whole MMA sphere because of those two things. Because you look at everything going on right now and you see a lot of the opinions that are being thrown out by professional fighters or fans and stuff like that, and you start to realize that an overwhelming majority of them may not agree with what you're trying to stick up for when it comes to Black Lives Matter. So sometimes it gets a little bit worrisome because you're not entirely sure if you fit where you want to be. This is what I chose to do. This is what I want to do. But it does get concerning sometimes knowing that I have to basically create a space for myself and do it well so that I can get some kind of respect. You know what I mean? So the last couple of days have been quite eye-opening. You realize a lot of things, and it's just one of those things where I personally believe that if you can educate people or at least just explain your point of view to someone, hopefully you can kind of get them to see why you go this way. A lot of people are in the space of all lives matter and stuff like that with without realizing what Black Lives Matter is truly about. I just feel like they get upset because it's something that seems like it's closing off the majority of the world when it's not really like that. So, as a Black female journalist, I definitely have to work twice as hard to kind of get respect. I haven't really come across too many detractors just yet. I haven't really faced too many issues, but I'm sure I'll meet those eventually, and I'm ready to do so because at the end of the day, I'm just here to share the stories of these MMA fighters and help educate you people on what's happening in the world and how that correlates to MMA.
Can I just want to say one thing that you touched on is so we are in this world of journalism or MMA analysis, and we I'm a gamer. I have a gaming headset on right now. I've been playing Call of Duty Warzone basically all weekend. And one thing that Call of Duty just recently did was they put out an update before every loading match, or before every match, there's a loading screen. And on the loading screen, it just says Black Lives Matter. And there's been a few of the people that I've been partied up with that have been kind of bothered by that, and I'm bothered because of their bother. I'm like, you guys got to understand, the internet is a breeding ground for racism. Like it just is.
Yeah.
So, in my opinion, this is something that's great. Everybody should see this. In fact, I want to hear everyone saying this, even if they don't matter, even if they don't mean it.
Also, it's extremely prominent in the gaming community as well, which is something that people tend to sweep under the rug when they're trying to play games together. But trust me, anybody that has ever played any video game online, give it 10 minutes, and I'm sure you'll hear some of the worst language that you've ever heard towards minorities.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, the MMA world is a little bit, I guess, on par with the same level of racism. I don't know how you guys watch your fights, but sometimes people watch fights on websites like and whatnot, and there's a chat bar on the side that's just filled with nothing but racism. Like, these guys are just posting Hitler faces, saying all the N words, and like the anonymity of the internet gives them this safety net. And I think it's important for games to just be like, hey, point blank, right there on the screen, this shit ain't cool, in this.
And hopefully, with everything that's happening right now, we'll be able to move forward to a better place where the entire world can feel as comfortable as some others who have privilege in life right now and may not understand that they do have it. But hopefully we get to a point where everyone can feel as comfortable around police as those who don't have to face any issues.
Has the UFC said anything official about this?
Not
I
that
don't.
not that I've seen. No.
No, I think they tried to ask about it last night at the post-fight press conference with Dana White, and I don't think he actually gave a direct statement about what's going on right now.
Which sounds like something that's right on par with the UFC. And
You know what I think it is? I think sometimes it's hard to kind of say something. They want to say the right thing, like a lot of these brands and companies are doing at the moment. They want to ensure that they're saying something that is going to align with what everybody is saying as far as the cause goes for Black Lives Matter, but they also don't want to steer away the majority of their audience, which doesn't believe in that message. So they're trying to find the line of how to stay supportive, but also show that we're not
completely. There's no line.
Right.
There's no line. This is a hard situation where it just has to be that. And if you aren't that, then you're the other way, as far as the way people are seeing it right now.
Well, you saw the reaction after the NFL commissioner, Roger Goodell. He said Black Lives Matter one time, and all of a sudden, like, the entire world shut down because a lot of people just don't agree with that, especially when you're looking at like professional sports. You saw how they were carrying on about the whole kneeling thing and conflating the message to make it seem as though it was something about the flag when it totally wasn't.
Hmm.
So the minute that you say that you align with the Black Lives Matter movement, it's almost as if you're spitting in the face of Americans, which is such an odd thing to do, because if you really know about the message, you would see that a Black Lives Matter message is not turning away anybody. It's trying to make sure that Black and brown people are not put in this position anymore to face this police brutality and stuff like that. So the whole, oh, it's keeping people away from connecting to each other and stuff like that because it's only Black and brown people. Like, no, everybody can join the movement. If you believe that there should not be police brutality, you're a part of the movement. It's just we happen to deal with it way more than the rest of the world.
Dana White is this close to losing me as a fan, and I know that might not matter. I know that might not matter. Like me, I might not matter. But here's the thing: this shit got. He has to do something, and the fact that he's so aligned with the boy 45,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't help the situation. Say something, man. At least do something. Donate to somebody. Put something on the octagon. They still had the Vegas Stronger thing up there, and yeah, that's a good message. But let's try to be a little bit more current with things. Like, dude, Dana White, do something, bro, because I'm about to start watching ONE FC, and just that's gonna be me forever.
And even with Vegas Strong, again, whenever you see the UFC do something positive, public relations wise, usually there is an underlying tone to their business, and of course, Vegas is the hub of all of their fights. So to not do Vegas Strong would be a black eye on the organization that makes the bulk of their finance in that area. So it's not really a shock to me that the UFC would do nothing for Black Lives Matter when it I I don't think I know anyone black that works for the UFC. There might be, but maybe not high up.
There are a few people,
Damn.
especially in the PR department. There are. I guess it's just trying to get them to make an overall, like a blanket statement to talk about it is probably difficult to do. You saw what the NFL, their media team had to do. They had to go behind their back to make that video message with all of the football players that participated in that little Black Lives Matter clip that they had going on Twitter. That wasn't passed by Roger Goodell or anything. So,
Yo, the UFC
you
ain't
know,
got nobody black on there and on roster, dog. What are they doing? They got to have a black
They
somebody
might
up
have a
there
few, but
at the head.
they
You
do.
know,
They do.
I ain't never seen them. Been watching for 10 years at least. It's crazy.
well, I know one thing: they need to stop posting these Getty images of uh, the hand models with the lotion all over their hands when all these people that are trying to apologize are now putting out these images and saying sorry. You can tell that the PR departments and the NFL and these individual athletes are all white. But that's another story for another day. Let's
Uh-huh.
jump into the action that we just witnessed. So we're gonna talk about UFC 250, which was at the UFC's Apex Center, the second event to be in there officially. How do you guys feel about the Apex Center just in general?
I think it's great. I think that actually the first article I ever wrote out of the few articles I've written has it spoke on this. The UFC needs to stop with this business model where they fucking renting out this venue in a completely different country or city, and are banking on the people in that city to pay for the tickets. That's kind of a hard dice roll, if you ask me. If you can get two, three, four, five locations and just rock solid and just have events those at those places, why not?
How do you feel about that, Kristen? I know that I believe the Adesanya versus Whitaker, is that the most attended event in UFC history? I think off the top of my head. I don't know if the UFC would ever be able to have a rock solid like in-house venue that size. But I think maybe as far as these fight night cards and all that, they don't need to outsource for those. Now the big events, I feel like those should be in huge stadiums, but everything else, why not?
Yeah.
Sure, put those in Apex like conditions. Kristen, how do you feel about the Apex Center?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you guys. I've actually enjoyed the shows that have happened at the Apex Center. It's just something about it that's more like intense for me because I know there's no real audience and I know the cage is smaller. So the likelihood of a finish happening just increases slightly, but it's a real possibility that it happens. And I honestly I don't need the fans, to be honest. I think that I was talking about this with someone. I said I understand not wanting to fight under the condition of not having fans because some fighters are in that mindset that they are competing for somebody, so they need to feed off the energy from the crowd. But honestly, just hearing everything and seeing how everything is playing out in like complete silence, I love it. So I'm all for keeping the events like a fight night card or something like that at the Apex Center. I think it's set up for that kind of stuff. So I hope that they do more of that in the future. I hope that they don't just stop doing that when the coronavirus pandemic is over. I hope they do a couple more shows there because I definitely don't need the big arena like 24/7.
Mhm.
So let's get into the bonus awards of the night. For performance of the night, we've seen four people walk away with 50K. We saw Cody Garbrandt, we saw Aljamain Sterling, we saw Sean O'Malley, and we saw Alex Perez. Let's first get into Cody Garbrandt. He had a pretty good showing. He got a great result. How do you guys feel about Cody's performance?
Um, it was tough that first round to score, but I had him losing the fight up until the knockout. And but it was a thing of beauty because in the end of the first round, he kind of did that same thing on the fence where he was like bobbing and weaving, just dodging punches, and then he kind of baited Rafael Sansal again in the second round with that same thing, just bobbing and weaving, and then just unleashed a haymaker from the bottoms of hell. So that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I thought he looked good on fight night. I don't know if it was probably because it's been a while since he last fought. I can't remember what year it was or when the last fight he had. I want to say it was like in 2018 or something like that. I don't know. But given the circumstances, I thought he looked pretty good. I thought he definitely lost the first round. He started finally finding his footing in the second round, and that's probably just a case of ring rust, like most fighters who have probably been out for a really long time. And then now he's under the tutelage of Mark Henry, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
and it certainly paid off. We got a more concentrated, more calculated Cody with a little sprinkle of his old self when he tried to bait Rafael Sunsao into like a brawl a little bit. And eventually it paid off. So I thought he looked great.
Now, if you ask a casual fan, they'll just say they love Garbrandt, they love his style. If you ask an expert fan or somebody that knows what they're actually looking at, they'll notice that Cody Garbrandt has a boxing background. I mean, the guy has gloves tattooed on the back of his neck. But you'll notice that when he actually fights, he doesn't really use boxing fundamentals. So, what do you think would take Cody Garbrandt to the next level? And of course, the question is, he has a solid jab. Why does he not use it?
Yeah, no, that's interesting that you mentioned that he doesn't use it, and he really don't. I think that going into this fight, he may have over been a little bit gun shy at the beginning. Like he didn't want to let his hands go, and I
Mm-hmm.
think he was maybe just really being cautious, and it played out to his favor in the end. But like I said, he was kind of losing due to the cautious play. He wasn't really engaging as much as I thought that he should be. But hey, he the head hunting worked, which usually doesn't work for you in the octagon. If you ask me, 9 times out of 10, you want to be throwing punches with bunches, some combos and things like that, and not really looking for that one shot. Luckily, he found it, or else we'd probably be talking about a completely different thing right now.
What do you think, Kristen?
Yeah, I think honestly, if Cody adds that jab to his repertoire, it'd be a whole different story. And a lot of people have written him off because of the last three knockouts that he suffered, which were all consecutive, unfortunately. But in those fights, think about the Cody that got to the Dominic Cruz fight. Think about the way he got there. That is what makes Cody Garbrandt special. He does what he does very well. So the fact that there are more tools that he can add to his weapon, to his weapons, basically, is insane to think about. And think he didn't even need those before he became bantamweight champion. So if he continues to add those new things to his game, we could be looking at like Cody Garbrandt 2.0. I saw that trending on Twitter. I thought that was absolutely hilarious. But it's true. We have a new Cody Garbrandt. The one, yeah, he did look a little gun shy, but you know why? Because Cody Garbrandt finds himself in situations where he hurts someone badly, goes in for the kill, leaves his chin straight up in the air, and it's a whole different story because the next thing you know, he's on the ground being knocked out. Like I would have never guessed that Pedro Munoz was it. I would have never guessed he was knocking out Cody Garbrandt. But guess what? It happened. And it's because Cody puts himself in the exact same position all the time. So I'm hoping now that he's splitting his time, I think he's splitting his time. I think they said that on the broadcast. He's splitting his time with Mark Henry and Team Alpha Male. Now that he's doing that and he's really working with some of the best coaches that MMA has to offer, I expect that we're going to see a new and improved Cody Garbrandt who may be well on his way to another championship run if he fights the way that I'm expecting him to fight. Hopefully, he just does not go out there and become the same brawler that he was before.
Cody
I want more
Garbrandt
calculated.
won't touch that gold ever again. Ever again.
You don't
He won't
know
touch it.
that. You don't
Here's
know
the
that.
thing.
Listen. The bantamweight division is deep right now. Anybody has a freaking chance. You had me saying that Sean
Not Cody
O'Malley after
Garbrandt.
last night, he has a chance too. So I'm not counting anybody out, especially at bantamweight right now.
True. Well, here's the thing. I think that was the perfect dance partner for Cody Garbrandt. He had a shorter guy, and he forced him to close the distance. That's the only reason he landed that haymaker. Aljamain Sterling isn't going to find himself in that position. Corey Sandhagen will never find himself in that position. Peter Yan is definitely not finding himself in that position. And he would have to go through any of those guys. Oh, did I mention Marlon Moraes would probably head kick him before he even like threw a punch? I just don't see a way Cody Garbrandt makes his way. Sure, he had his time a few years ago, but that time has passed. But you got to go back to the back and then let the boy Aljamain Sterling step up and get that gold.
And you didn't even mention Sean O'Malley, the 6-footer. That would probably give him some problems as well.
Boy, see, that's the thing. Rafael Sansa was just short, and he struggled to close the distance. But when he did, he had his moments. Cody got to do something against people that fight at range.
So speaking of rangy fighters, we'll go back to the bantamweight on the card that we just mentioned, Aljamain Sterling, who defeated Corey Sandhagen. He pretty much looked one of his best performances inside of the octagon to date.
Man.
Literally, don't even think he was touched. Went in there, 1 round, 1 minute, 28 seconds, does what he does, strapped that anaconda backpack choke on, and ended up getting the rear naked choke, which is, his bread and butter. The strength of Aljo, I think, is very underrated.
Very.
But let's get into Sterling's performance against undefeated Corey Sandhagen, who a lot of people thought was the uncrowned champ going forward. What do you think about Aljo and his title shot chances going forward?
I'll let
Go ahead, Miss King.
Oh, okay. Aljamain Sterling. That was a wonderful performance on Saturday night. And you know what that performance was? That was a mix of frustration from being passed over for a title shot and a reminder as to why he should not have been passed over for a title shot. I personally was most excited for this fight between him and Corey Sandhagen. I'm super high on Corey Sandhagen. I think he definitely is one of those future stars in the bantamweight division. I'm not going to say that this was too early in his career. It definitely wasn't, because he's shown in the past before that he can hang with some of the top dogs in the division. I just think that this is Aljamain Sterling's time at the moment. the fight that they're making right now for the bantamweight championship between Peter Yan and Jose Aldo, I am going to watch it, but probably like, I don't know. I'm not going to be so excited for it because I know who should really be in there against Peter Yan. I've been calling for this fight for so long. I want to see him versus Aljamain Sterling, and I think that Sterling's performance on Saturday was a testament to just how good this fight is really going to be when it finally happens. So I'm in the boat of Peter Yan, please win so we can finally get the Aljamain Sterling fight. You guys have been going back and forth for like 2 years on Twitter. We've almost gotten it, and it never happened. So I'm hoping either Peter Yan wins and then he can defend his title against Aljamain, or God forbid something happens, like as far as an injury or something happens as far as travel issues with Jose Aldo. Aljamain barely broke a sweat in the Sandhagen fight, and I'm sure he's more than ready to go right now. So I thought that was a great performance, and this is just a reminder. This is Aljo. This is the guy that should be fighting for a title right now.
Yeah, if you ask me, the only reason he got passed up is because Dana White be playing them favorites for them people of different pigment. That's all I'm saying. Because the boy Aljamain Sterling got a better resume, if you ask me, than Peter Yan and Jose Aldo. That's all I'm saying. At least at bantamweight. Sorry, Jose. You go to featherweight. You got that. But at bantamweight, you ain't done a goddamn thing. So Aljamain Sterling, there was no reason he should have got passed up on. But the fact that he did, I think, like Miss King said, he went into the octagon with some frustrations about that, and you got the weight of the Black Lives Matter movement on your back, trying to get paid an extra 50 G's. And hey, the man did his thing. Like Roy said, it was the best performance from Sterling we'd ever seen. I mean, the guy went in there, immediately body locked Corey Sandhagen, who is an awesome grappler himself, got to the back and just choked him. And the way that he choked him, because Sterling was doing everything right to defend that choke. He was turning the right way. He was fighting the hands. But Sterling, once he's a Matt Serra black belt, man. And there's levels to the different caliber of black belts in this game.
Yeah, one of the fascinating things about Sterling, in my opinion, is he's one of the few guys where if he gets a hold of you and he gets you down, your first instinct as a fan is he got this. That doesn't happen with a lot of fighters, but when you see Sterling body lock somebody, sometimes he likes to backpack them. But once you see him get on someone's back, you pretty much believe as a fan that the fight is done. He's either going to get punches on you so that he can get you in the position to choke you out as he wants, or he's just going to flat out choke you out any way that he wants to do it. With strength and with technique, I think he's one of the best grapplers in the UFC, period. I really do, especially when you factor in actually getting your opponent to the ground as well.
True.
Which I think when you factor in getting them to the ground and then doing everything that you need to do to finish a fight, he has to be up there with the top.
Yeah, I'd say, especially in that division, without a doubt, in that division, for sure.
So we're going to go to the next bantamweight on the card that impressed a lot of people, which is Sean O'Malley, a hot prospect in the UFC. Seems to be like Dana White's favorite toy right now. Sean O'Malley defeated Eddie Wineland, the Mustache Man, 1 minute 54 second walk-off KO. I would say Mark Hunt style, but in my opinion, it was better. What do you guys think?
I think it was the best knockout of the night. People are saying Cody Garbrandt deserves the best knockout of the night. And hey, bro, the haymaker was great, but I've seen haymakers, dog. In fact, I can name 3 Mark Hunt haymakers that were better than that. But I've never seen anyone throw that real subtle uppercut and then he threw it into a straight in one fucking mechanic. It wasn't like projected at all. Eddie Wineland, he had no option but to turn that direction to block the uppercut and got hit in the fucking face. And like Rory said, he did it in almost under 2 minutes. It took Cody Garbrandt 2 rounds to set up that haymaker. It's no question. Sugar Sean O'Malley had the best knockout, in my opinion. It's awesome.
What do you think, Kristen? To me, I'm on board with that as well. Sean O'Malley, there was a lot of technique behind it. He set it up perfectly. He was fainting throughout the duration of the beginning of the entire fight. Eddie could never really. You could see that there was a distinct speed advantage and size. Like O'Malley, the way he just moves like an elite striker. Which I wrote this on Twitter. There's a few people where they just move like an elite striker and they have the distance and timing down. You see it with Adesanya. You see it with Whitaker, McGregor, Valentina. You have to add Sean to that mix when it comes to standing up and being elite, no fear in his striking.
Yeah, Sean O'Malley is definitely on that list. I thought he looked great also, and it just really bugged me that remember he was out for like 2+ years because of this USADA thing. Imagine how much of that we missed out on. Like Sean O'Malley has probably been upping his game for the last 2 years because that's all he could do. It's not like he could fight or anything. So just seeing that performance against Eddie Wineland, which definitely I'm in the same boat as him where he said I wasn't surprised that I did that to Eddie Wineland because I pretty much expected that as well. Like I always give credit to a veteran, especially someone like Eddie Wineland. You don't really do that a lot to someone like that, but Sean O'Malley is just a different breed, you know? He's another one of those young guys in the bantamweight division that is going to make a lot of problems for those at the top. Eventually he's going to get there and he's going to continue to get better. So I loved his performance. I can't wait to see him back in. He's also another one of those guys that didn't break a sweat at all. So hopefully he can get another fight. I don't know against who just yet. I'm still thinking about that unless Ray, my counterpart, has a suggestion.
Here's the thing. I like what Sean O'Malley is doing for his career. He came out and publicly said that he ain't going to fight no top opponents until he get paid top money. That's smart. That's smart, dude. Because look, from then on, you're fighting nothing but the best. If you ask me, that's a mistake that was made in Cody Garbrandt's camp, dude. Why you rushing to the top? Take your time, beat these fuckers up, build your stock, create the story. Because now people are chomping at the bits to see Sean O'Malley, like we said, versus Aljamain Sterling for the title, even before he's fought anyone ranked.
So let's play a little game here. Now that we have these three bantamweight prospects, we're gonna play start one, sit one, cut one. So start one would be who you think might be a champion. Sit one, the person on the fence, and then cut one, they could go.
Easy.
Garbrandt, Sterling, O'Malley. Start one, sit one, cut one.
I'm gonna let her go first. It's just too easy for me.
I definitely start Sterling because for very obvious reasons. He's definitely going to be a champ eventually. On the fence right now would be O'Malley, and I'm only putting him on the fence because of the current he has to renegotiate his contract, so I don't know where that's going to lead. And obviously I would cut Garbrandt. It's just he's the to me it's the most obvious choice. Maybe Ray has a point in saying that he has a lot more work to do and he definitely has to work his way back up. I still think he can get there, but as of right now, I would have to cut him.
Yeah, no, that's it. She hit the nail on the head. That's really the only right answer you can do here. Sterling he should have got a title fight 2 fights ago. So yes, start him. O'Malley, yeah, we want to see more of the Sugar Show. So, just sit him a little bit. Don't be making him fight these super hard veterans. Just build his career slowly. And Cody Garbrandt, man, you just got to go figure something else out. Coach kids, I don't know, whatever.
All right, now how do we feel about an interesting one on the card? Alex Perez, who defeated GCA Formiga with leg kicks. How do we feel about it's not super prominent, but how do we feel about the emergence of leg kick victories happening in mixed martial arts right now?
So, the small cage, you have nowhere to run, dude. You can't go nowhere. So, we've seen 3 leg kicks finished in the last, 3 events or 2 events.
Yeah, 2
So
in the
out of what 11 in the history of the UFC. So I mean, let's be smart here and put two and two together. When these guys have nowhere to go, those leg kicks are going to be super effective. And if you aren't checking them, you probably going down, as Mr. Formiga did.
Yeah, I think we're being. First of all, let me just say, Cecil Peoples is somewhere like, damn it, leg kicks don't finish fights, and he's just so wrong about that. But I agree with Ray that small cage definitely has something to do with it, and I hope that we're not going to be completely spoiled with leg kick finishes, because now my expectation for every single event is that there has to be at least one of them. And I know not a lot of fighters are going to be able to accomplish this kind of stuff on a consistent basis. So I don't know.
Yep.
Hopefully the next, yeah.
Why don't we add a
Hopefully
Von
the next.
Flu choke and a twister?
Oh my God, yeah. Well, when you watch when you watch OSP and Bryce Mitchell, you just kind of expect those things to happen. So I don't know. Hopefully we're not being spoiled too often, and then eventually when we get back to normal, we're never going to see leg kick finishes again. But we'll see. But I've been enjoying them. They've been quite the shocker to me.
Let's progress through the card. Let's get to the main event. We've seen the Lioness, the GOAT, the greatest to ever do it, double champ, defending 2 titles, which is unheard of, unthinkable. Amanda Nunes defeats Felicia Spencer with a unanimous decision and a lopsided one at that. 50-44 scores across the board. Can anyone beat Amanda Nunes?
She's beatable, but they should have did it last year. Because with every damn week, she is getting so much better, and it's almost scary at this point. Like the amount of gap that she's creating between her and the other athletes. Like no one's doing the 1-2 that she's doing. It's throwing with that kind of power. No one's threatening takedowns like legit takedowns where she's going to get you down, and then no one's got that top game to back it up, nor the defense to like get out of trouble if you do need it.
Mm-hmm.
She's becoming a real problem, and I'm afraid that cleaning out the division and what she's already done, but like staying on top for so long is going to kill WMMA in a sense.
What do you think, Kristen?
Yeah, I've seen that opinion quite a bit, saying that just her complete dominance over both divisions kind of takes away some of her star power. I think she even alluded to that during her post-fight conference. I don't know if you guys caught that, but she said that she wanted to go 5 rounds with Felicia Spencer just so she could show people that she can go all 5 rounds, which I was like, who is complaining about you not going 5 rounds? Because let's be honest, you could have finished that fight at least like 3 rounds earlier. Like, we did not need to see 25 minutes of that. That's the only thing that bugged me about the Nunes and Spencer fight, is because you got the sense of she's playing with her food a little bit. And no one wants to see that, especially when you have a reputation that is, you're this absolute killer. They run the highlight reel. You got the Ronda Rousey knockout. You got the Misha Tate knockout. You have the Holly Holm knockout. You have the Chris Cyborg knockout. Those are 4 like women pioneers for the sport. And you mean to tell me that you're worried about people thinking you can't go 5 rounds? To hell with them. If you're better at doing what you do, which is destroying these women in like 60 seconds or less, keep doing that shit. That's exactly what I'm paying to see anyway. And I mean, you're right about this gap. It is becoming so much more apparent and way wider than what I thought it was going to be, to the point where I have no idea if she really is beatable at this point. I have no idea who they're gonna put her up against. You had last night Joe Rogan on the broadcast saying a potential fight with Megan Anderson. Eventually that's gonna happen, but is that something a lot of people would enjoy seeing? Probably not. It even got to the point where he brought up the name of Clarissa Shields, the boxing champion, as a new challenge, because at this point there are no challenges for Amanda Nunes.
The only
And that's
thing I can
crazy.
not to cut you
No,
off.
go ahead. Go ahead.
The only,
No, you're
the only
good.
other mixed martial artist that I can think of possibly is Kayla Harrison, but even then is like a stretch.
Yeah, that's going to take so long to even make because
It's
Kayla Harrison is making bank in PFL. I don't think she's ever going to give up that kind of contract unless it's for a very lucrative deal with the UFC.
Mhm.
But even then, and don't they train at ATT together?
Oh yeah, they're teammates. Yeah.
Yeah, hell no, that's not going to happen. So at this
Yeah.
point,
Mhm.
I think that Amanda Nunes should be able to take the rest of 2020 off. Her and Nina Ansaroff can welcome their baby daughter into the world. And then in 2021, I guess hopefully a new contender emerges and we can see where she goes from there. Because right now, Amanda Nunes is the double champion for a reason. There's just nobody else doing it like her.
I want to see a cyborg matchup, a rematch. I want to
It's
see
not going to
that.
happen.
It's not going to happen, true. But
No.
that's the only other thing because I think that she caught Cyborg off guard a little bit. I don't think Cyborg.
What do you think is going to change in a rematch? Tell me.
Well, Cyborg can be a little bit more technical. Won't go in there as crazy. I don't think she knew the type of power that Amanda Nunes was going to hit her with. Cyborg ain't never been hit like that. I mean, no one's been hit like that. So, neither has Amanda Nunes been hit like that. So it's just like maybe if we give her another shot, which Dana White was like, clearly that's not happening. Mm-hmm. But I think that that's the only other person. I mean, of course, Miss Shevchenko.
Oh, but they're not going to do that either. Are we really going to see a third fight between Valentina Shevchenko and Amanda Nunes? No.
No.
I think everybody can pretty much say we know who won the first two fights. We're done with seeing it. We don't want to be heartbroken again.
Sure.
I would say two interesting facts about that are, for starters, I think I read something. I believe Felicia Spencer walks around at like 170 pounds.
She looks it.
So, to me, that's interesting because I feel like Nunes's best competition has been Val, who's a lot smaller than that. And then I would say also with Kayla Harrison, I think she'd have to cut an additional 10 pounds to make weight for that fight, and I don't even think she'd be willing to do that. If she did, I think major money would have to be on the line.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. She's talked about not going to featherweight before because she's so comfortable at lightweight. But the thing about her division as well is that it's so lackluster. You probably have no choice but to jump down to another weight class, and your best challenges are probably going to be at 145 if she can do it the healthy way. The same way that we're all kind of worried about Amanda Nunes potentially going down to 135 again. I don't see it personally because it's like, why risk cutting an additional 10 pounds again? But we'll have to see what happens.
I think Nunes she could float Harrison to 10 pounds. She could not cut weight, go to 55. Go to 55. Amanda Nunes probably walks around somewhere 160-ish. How about you just don't eat that morning, weigh in and fight Kayla Harrison and get you a third belt.
Which,
I'd
by
be
the way,
okay with a catch weight.
Yeah, I was going to say,
yeah.
I'll say, I think Nunes still knocks Kayla right out.
Oh, yeah. No, it's done.
I think so, too.
Yeah, within two rounds, I think she takes her clean out. With the weight advantage, or if she has the extra pounds. I think if Nunes was fighting at her 145 and Kayla was at her 155, they're both hydrated, whatever they're at, I think Amanda still knocks her clean out.
Yeah. I want to give a quick shout out to Felicia Spencer because I think that, we touched on Amanda Nunes kind of playing with their food a little bit. And I think that I think we're kind of discrediting Miss Spencer a little bit because she was defensively sound, for a big chunk of that fight. Of course, she was eating punches. She wasn't moving her head nearly as much as she should, but she was moving her feet. She was still the aggressor in a lot of that fight. She was backing Amanda Nunes up. So, and I feel like there was a few punches that Amanda Nunes threw, hit Felicia Spencer with, expected Felicia Spencer to go down, and she didn't. And that's kind of why we got the response that we did in that post-fight presser talking about how I wanted to go 5 rounds. I think she meant to finish her in that 3rd round. She meant to finish her in that 4th round. And then when we got in the 5th round, that's when she was like, okay, I'm comfortable letting this girl finish this 5 minutes. That's just what I think.
I thought it was a little bit weird how they almost tried to stop the fight for a cut I believe she had on like the on her hairline or something like that.
Hmm.
I will say though, I have no issue giving Felicia Spencer her credit. I was not in the camp of what I was seeing a lot of on Twitter talking about throw in the towel. That was nowhere near like a Anthony Smith Glover Teixeira beatdown. So I don't know why they were calling for that anyway. I thought Felicia looked good. It's just it was very evident that she had nothing for her once like the third round started.
That's why I said throw in the towel because she didn't have anything. And once we saw the because it was the grappling was her only path to victory. Once we
Mhm.
saw that wasn't going to happen, that's when you should be asking yourself as a cornerman, where is my fighter going to win this fight? And if you can't
Yeah.
see it, throw the fucking towel in.
You know what probably would have made me think that way? I think it was in the third round, midway through, where Amanda picked up Felicia's leg and just swept her and tossed her right on her back. I was like,
Yeah,
oh my God,
that
that's
that's
just,
that was
it's
the
not
same for
fair.
me. Yep, that was the
It's
same for
not
me.
fair. But I
Yep.
still am not in the idea that the towel should have been thrown in. If you said she was still being aggressive, so she
Hmm.
still has that under her belt. It's
True.
just it was pretty clear she was not going to win no matter what. But
Right.
at the end of the day, you sign up for 5 rounds. You know the potential of this fight going 5 rounds. So if you want to go all five, go for it. Because you know Felicia Spencer is not the type to quit. She wasn't going to let that happen anyway. So I'm happy that she went for the 5 rounds, but it was pretty obvious who would the winner be
At the
after.
beginning of the fourth, her cornerman said, "Throw a flying teep to the face."
Yeah, like that was gonna work. But okay, you know what? Points for
To the
creativity.
face.
It
Shout
wasn't
out,
gonna happen.
shout out to Felicia Spencer. Shout out to her toughness, and shout out to her black hair braider that she was that she had on Instagram. Felicia Spencer. No, her braids were nice. That was cool, right?
Boy, that cornerman, somebody need to get that guy out of there.
All right, so earlier we were talking about Garbrandt, Sterling, O'Malley, and all these other elite level 135ers that are currently floating around. So many different options for who could hold the strap next with the exit of Cejudo. Um, this division is so great. Is this current bantamweight division the greatest division that the UFC has ever seen?
I would have to analyze that a little bit more, but on first thought, no. No.
Yeah.
In fact, I would argue that the current welterweight is a little bit better.
Some would say current lightweight is better as well, and historically, the John Jones light heavyweight division, as he was taking out everybody, was also pretty ridiculous as well.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think there's so many other divisions that can come before the bantamweight division at this moment, but it's definitely up there. I like having the question of what if repeatedly asked when it comes to certain fighters, like we mentioned, the Garbrandts, the O'Malleys, the Sterlings, the Jans, the Sandhagens, all of those are potential champions. And it's like, well, damn, I can't really pick who I think would be at the top of that list right at this moment because they're all very, very good.
Right.
And I'm down for Cody Garbrandt's idea of having like another bantamweight tournament. I'm totally down for that. That way we can figure stuff out because the bantamweight division right before we had this was weird as hell. When Henry Cejudo was still fighting, Henry had a fight. Then Dominic Cruz came back, and there was a lot of number skipping, which is, I guess, evidence that rankings don't really matter, but somehow they do. So I don't know. But there are just a lot of questions in the bantamweight division, and it is perhaps the most exciting as it is right now. And it's insane to say that, considering that we no longer have a champion reigning over. That's why I think it's almost like a free for all. Like, who's going to be next? I don't know. It could be anybody at this point.
So we're gonna jump into one more question, but before we get to the last question, I'm gonna ask you guys, as far as 250 goes, who is your underrated fighter of the night?
The underrated fighter of the night.
We had good performances from Neil Magny We had Alex Caceres put on a good performance.
I was
We
about
had,
to say, yeah, Alex Caceres probably, in my just off the top of my head, would probably get the nod just because, man, he went in there and beat a hype train. Everyone was
Mhm.
on the Chase Hooper hype train, and a lot of people had seen Alex Caceres fight before. They kind of think they know what they're getting with Alex Caceres, and in my opinion, Alex Caceres is one of the biggest wild cards in all of MMA. Like you really don't know what you get when you're watching an Alex Caceres fight.
we also saw Devin Clark defeat Alonzo Menefield, which that was a really good performance from him. We seen an emotional Cody Stamen defeat Brian Kelleher on the card, and then we had the Patolo defeating Charles Bird with the TKO punches. That also happened. So, good card from top to bottom. And I guess I shouted out everybody except Herbert Burns, who has the probably the dumbest name in all of mixed martial arts, but it is what it is. Kristen, who is your MVP of the night as far as underrated fighters go on the card?
That was my MVP, Herbert Burns. I've been super high on Herbert since I've seen him fight in Titan FC. I I think he's great. I picked him in like an MMA draft kind of thing, and I'm sticking by that choice because now he's showcasing exactly why you don't just expect jujitsu from a Burns brother. He can either spark you or he can choke you out. It's either or, same like his brother Gilbert Burns. So that was my underrated MVP of the night. I just love watching him work. It's always fun to see.
And what about we're going to start a new segment. We're going to highlight who do you think lost the best? Who had the best performance in a loss on this card to you?
That I actually am going to go with the same exact answer. Chase Hooper. I thought that although he looked sloppy, this was a fight that he really had the chip stacked against him, in my opinion. Like I said earlier, with the Alex Caceres card, he's a wild card. Chase Hooper's manager should not have given him this fight, but he did well against someone who's been in the UFC for 9 years. So I give that to Chase Hooper.
What do you think, Kristen?
My pick would probably be Alonzo Menefield. I thought that he looked pretty decent, but I think when you're so used to taking someone out within like the first or second round, and eventually you get to the third round, I think that was the first time he ever got there in his career. You start to see where you can kind of make some adjustments and improvements here and there. So Alonzo Menefield definitely didn't look terrible against Devin Clark. He had him hurt really, really bad in the first round. I believe I saw that Devin Clark actually sustained a broken orbital bone from what it was an uppercut. I want to say it hit
Yeah,
him right on the
early.
eye.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy. But I think with that being his very first professional loss, I think he can take away so much more. He has to work on his cardio. He has to ensure that he can go all these 3 rounds. And eventually, we're going to see Alonzo Menefield back, and I think that he's going to be one of those issues. I believe at light heavyweight.
Honorable mention to Charles Bird, who was totally winning this fight before he got knocked out. So
And
Yeah, that was.
I'm gonna give my honorable mention to Brian Kelleher,
mm,
who just fought a month prior.
Mhm.
And had a good performance against Hunter Azure. Came back fast, lost to Stamen, who had a lot to fight for. He didn't look bad to me. There was moments where he was pushing offensively, and early on he didn't get his timing right, and that ended up not working in his favor for the duration of the fight. But I think a pretty good showing for someone that just came off of a fight and would probably rather be resting at the moment.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, we are out of time. Uh, Kristen, is there anything you'd like to tell the people as we sign off and where they can find you online?
You can always find me on Twitter at Kristen King MMA, or you can find my articles at mymmanews.com. Also, always give cards like this a chance. I will say that a card like UFC 250 that doesn't look that great on paper, you never know what's going to happen. And as you saw from last night, that was probably one of the best cards that we've had of the year. So always give these cards a chance. That's my finishing statement. Go ahead, Ray.
Yeah, you can catch all my stuff at Darce_smokes on Twitter. Also, give a shout out to my GoFundMe that I'm still trying to get some jujitsu to these kids in these underprivileged communities. I posted a little thing where I was doing some yoga with them last week. Um, I think that if we, all chip in, make it happen, we can do some good in the world. So let's make it happen.
All right, and this is your moderator who's not going to plug anything at the moment. The show will be up on YouTube later for everyone to check out, and we're going to start putting these out much more consistently, so you guys will have a lot more opinions to look forward to from both of these generous hosts. I want to thank you guys for tuning in to the second installment of Face Off. Thank you guys for watching, and we will definitely be back soon.